Is Russell Westbrook's NBA career over? Training camp is upon us, and he is still unsigned. One NBA player says it's unfair the way Russ is being treated around the league. I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We've said it before, but 70% of you're not subscribed. Fix that. Hit that subscribe button. Joining me is Donnie Freeman. Donnie, let's talk a little bit about Russ, some of the other signings going on around the NBA. Are you surprised right now that Russell Westbrook, former MVP, as of this moment, is not on an NBA team?
I mean, I would be if this wasn't how this was trending all summer, basically, because we had been hearing about the fact that there weren't many suitors for him. It was pretty much kings or bust, and they tried to figure something out, were unable to. So frankly, no, but just in the grand scheme of things, I think so. Yeah, I think I thought he played pretty good in the playoffs, of course, and things like that. We've always said that Russ is a very particular type of fit. I think he needs to go to somewhere that really can maximize what he's able to do. He's got a lot of things in his game that don't really mesh too well with the current NBA and in a lot of different rosters around the NBA. And he's obviously going to make a lot of mistakes. And so if you can offset that, then he can be good for you and maybe be a good pickup for you. But I mean, it's unfortunate. It's bittersweet. You know, he is one of these guys that's been around for quite a while, and it always sucks that we see situations like this.
So here's what Michael Porter Jr. of the now the Brooklyn Nets had to say about Russ and his time with the Denver Nuggets. They both played together there last year. Said so for Russ to go from MVP to then be told he's going to play this type of role, and then to go to these different teams and get disrespected by so many people. When he went to the LA Lakers, he was disrespected like crazy. When he went to the Clippers, people hated on him like crazy. Meanwhile, he's been the MVP of the NBA. You know, it's always been a fine line for me, especially coming at it from a Lakers perspective, between is it disrespectful of Russell Westbrook or is it just the reality of kind of where he is? And I'm not saying it's an easy transition for a player to go from being not just a superstar, but the MVP of the league to now being a role player. We've seen a number of guys who have struggled. Allen Iverson struggled with doing that. Vince Carter is one of the most successful ones at doing that and hung around for a long time and was happy with his job as a role player.
Carmelo also struggled with that. Remember, they want me to come off the bench and all that. So remember Melo, and it took him a couple years to get situated after that.
Right. So by no means should we dismiss that is a difficult thing, but I also think the NBA has evolved around Russell Westbrook and not in his direction. And so that has complicated all of this as well. So when Michael Porter Jr. is saying, people are being disrespectful of him, is there a little bit of that? Yeah, to be honest, there probably is. People probably took things a little bit too far with the comments on Russell Westbrook. But that said, his play style is also not one that is a great fit with the modern NBA, particularly when we talk about the inefficiencies. I do wonder, though, with the unfortunate injury to Fred VanVleet, if the Houston Rockets could sign somebody, and they can't right now, they're too close to the hard cap, would they then go sign Russell Westbrook? Is that all it's going to take? Is a team suffering an injury and having the ability to sign Russ, and then boom, he's right back in the NBA?
I'm gonna be honest. I don't think that happens. I think KD will just have the biggest headache of all time. I just don't think it's gonna happen. Remember they asked him. Remember there was he was at some event for like a month ago or whatever, and they were doing like an in-person interview. He was talking about the decision to go to Houston, and then at the end they were like, "Oh well, should we get Russ back?" And he was like, "Oh, we'll figure that out some other time or something like that." So yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen. Really, what they should be doing is trying to see if Brogdon can wiggle his way out of that camp deal, because that would be really good for them, I think.
Well, but the Knicks did make another move, and we'll talk about that. But the Knicks, in terms of the Brogdon deal, it looks like a move is coming for the Knicks that's going to open things up to try to keep Brogdon and maybe Landry Shamet as well. But we'll see. Yeah, I think you're right though. If Brogdon becomes available, he'd be a great fit for the Rockets. The problem is the Rockets can't sign. It doesn't. Brogdon, Westbrook, anybody. They can't sign anybody right now. They can't sign me, nor should they. But they can't.
They could sign you if they wanted to. They would have to do it by different rules, because you're not a former NBA player or a former college player. They'll have you start at a lower number.
I'll tell you what, I would, if they want to funnel some money through a third party, I would plant the damn trees and go be the 15th man on somebody's bench. I will do it. All right, let's talk about some of the moves that have actually happened around the NBA. Everybody let us know in the comment section, is Russell Westbrook's NBA career over? What do you think? Let us know in the comments section. Let's talk a little bit about some of the deals that have actually gone down in the NBA over the last couple of days. We'll get to that right now Over on Sleeper, I'm taking Kyler Murray to get more than 0.5 passing yards because, of course, thank you for the free square there. Malik Neighbors, I'm going to say new quarterback Jackson Dart hyper targets him and he finds his way into the end zone. And Dak Prescott, tough sledding in Dallas. No CD Lamb, 242.5 passing yards. I'm going to say Dak does not get there. If you agree with me, you disagree, turn your football knowledge into real money with the Sleeper app, the ultimate fantasy sports app that can turn game day into payday. Just download the Sleeper app and pick more or less on your favorite players with more stats than any other daily fantasy app. Choose 2 or more of your favorite players from pregame or live. Pick more or less from the predicted stats, and you can win up to 1,000 times your money if your picks win. Use promo code Bulletin, and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today.
Man,
okay, I should have said we'll get to it right after this, but here we go.
Really quick, I wanted to say something on Russ, though. We talked a bit about how like his game, he doesn't fit in a lot of different places. You need to have the floor space for him to really operate. He needs lanes, but he also needs to be in a situation where if they sag off him for 10 feet, he's not really going to hurt you, which is kind of hard to, be in a situation where that happens, right? Like that's not really normal. And he's had stretches where he shot pretty hot and then he's also gone cold. So that's the fact he didn't evolve his game over time is the biggest problem with him. But I will say, I do think he does still have some skills like his rebounding, his playmaking, even though he can turn the ball over a good bit. He's been a bit better on defense over the last couple years. I do think he's a guy that teams will get into the season, and he may have to wait until mid-season, but I think teams will get into the season. Something will happen at some point, and I do think he will get a call from someone.
And let's keep in mind these teams that right now are hard capped at either the first or the second apron. As the season goes on, veteran minimum deals do prorate. So that means that a team that is, say, 1.1, 1.2 million below a hard cap right now that can't sign a veteran minimum free agent will be able to do so at a certain stage of the season. So, for example, the Houston Rockets, I believe it's late January, sometime in January, where it'll prorate enough for them to actually sign somebody. So that could be all it takes. All Russell Westbrook is waiting for. Doesn't have to be Houston, other teams too, but that could be a factor.
He really thought that he had, and I thought so too. I thought he had a good stretch in the playoffs, even though it was again up and down. But that's what you expect. That is part of the experience with Russ at this point. But he declined a player option.
He did.
Like
it was like a $4 million player option.
Yeah.
Maybe. Now, I've always contended though, Donnie, if you're Russell Westbrook and you've made the kind of money that he's made, if he, and I don't know if he is or not, but if he was not happy in Denver for any reason, just opt out. I mean, go be somewhere it's going to be happy. Now, if he did it specifically though, because he was hoping to get a bigger deal from the Nuggets or somebody else, then that's looking like a mistake.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, maybe if that is the case, then sure, I guess we don't know that. But I'd assume that it's probably to try to get a bigger deal somewhere to get off of a minimum adjacent salary. So unfortunate overall, but I do think he'll be back. I don't think his career is over yet.
Yeah.
I think he'll end it on his terms.
I sure hope so. I sure hope so for Russ. Because all-time great. As MPJ noted, he had a good relationship with Russ, and that's been the one constant throughout his career is guys do tend to talk about how much they enjoy being a teammate of Russell Westbrook. So we'll see where this ultimately goes. We did have a few signings around the NBA. Thomas Bryant, the veteran big man, signing with the Cavs to give them a little bit more depth in the middle. We have seen, it's been a common trend in the course of the summer, has been more teams loading up on size this year. The bigs, the center position, back in vogue around the NBA. So now joining the Cavs, providing depth alongside Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, and Larry Nance Jr. So just giving them that other option there in the middle. And then we saw Precious Achiuwa ultimately land with the Miami Heat. Now that's on a non-guaranteed deal. There can still be shuffling with these contracts, but interesting to see some of these veteran big men ultimately latch on to a team right as we're getting into training camp mode.
Yeah, and there was a few other signings as well, but teams are starting to get ready, like you were saying, for training camp and see which guys they like, see what they need, and get loaded up for the season.
Yeah, I mean, you had KJ Martin got waived by the Jazz. It does look like Kevin Love is going to report to training camp with Utah. We'll see ultimately where that lands, if and when they do buy him out. That is still, I think, what is expected to happen there. But Precious Achiuwa to the Miami Heat. These guys are starting to land these deals. The Knicks are an interesting one. They're widely expected to be making a trade so that they can keep Malcolm Brogdon and/or Landry Shamet. Those guys are on just camp deals right now, but they want to convert them to be full deals. So we'll see who they ultimately move. They've got to get somebody off their roster in order to do it. Maybe the Brooklyn Nets are sitting there saying, "Bring us your draft picks. We'll take whatever salaries you want to dump here on us, and we'll take a little fee for doing so." But there are still some moves, it looks like, to be made around the NBA as teams are kind of rounding out their rosters. We're getting into camp and getting ready to fully roll here for the season. Donnie, what we look at these kinds of deals, not a guarantee that these guys are going to make teams, but these can be the kind of sneaky moves that pop up right now. And the next thing you know, you have an injury hit, and one of these guys, whether it's Precious Achiuwa, Thomas Bryant, somebody else, winds up being like a pretty important reserve on one of these teams.
Yeah, that's why you try to load up on the depth, right? Because you never know what could happen. It's a long, grueling season for a lot of these teams. And the primary thing for a team like the Cavs is just try to get through the season healthy. But if by chance you ever need to give a player a night off, maybe they got a nagging injury or whatever the case is, you want to have that depth and players you can turn to plug into your rotation if necessary. So you never know. And I think Thomas is a nice quality piece, as is Precious as well.
Yeah, depth becoming more important now than ever before, I think, in today's NBA. But everybody, give us your thoughts in the comments down below. Russell Westbrook, is his career over, or will he ultimately find some place to land here? Sacramento, still all eyes on them, but doesn't appear like anything is imminent there. So give us your thoughts in the comments down below. What about teams making some last-minute additions right before training camp? Make sure you do subscribe right here to the channel. Till next time, see ya, and stay safe.